Lecture 4, I call this Extinction Events. It obviously doesn't take an historian to list all the reasons that humans turn on each other and create conflict among ourselves as a species. We have devised all sorts of categories for division, hatred, enslavement, war, and so on. I'll list a few of them here for you. They're all pretty obvious. Race, we divide each other on the basis of skin color. The entire institution of slavery is built around the difference between white and black. White equals free, black equals slave. Ethnicity is another way that we divide ourselves. Just think of the genocide in Central Africa, where the Hutus slaughtered the Tutsis in the hundreds of thousands in the mid-1990s. Religion is another way we divide ourselves, Catholic against Protestant, Sunni against Shia. Nationality, obviously we divide ourselves based on nationality, country of origin. Think of the long conflict between the Germans and the French, and there's endless examples of this. Sexual preference, we divide ourselves based on gay or straight. The gay population for generations, for centuries, been stigmatized or penalized for their difference. Language is an immediate way to identify the other. You often see the other in quotation marks. It simply refers to those people who aren't like us, who aren't like the majority. And once we create differences, then we can legislate against these people. We can take their property, we can take their lives, in fact. We have a lot of examples of this in history. The Holocaust probably being the most dominant example I can think of in the 20th century. So there are endless ways of dividing ourselves. This lecture on extinction events was inspired by a line in President Kennedy's American University speech of 1963. In that commencement address, JFK noted that Cold War differences between the United States and the Soviet Union were sort of the ultimate division and could create, indeed, the end of the world with nuclear exchange. He then goes on to say,
our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's futures, and we are all mortal.
This struck me. It left a big impression on me, and it got me to thinking that in spite of all the categories that we create to point out the differences among us, that we do have some things in common. We do all inhabit this one small planet. We have no choice. It occurred to me that extinction events would tend to erase the differences that we've created among each other. If there's a large asteroid headed towards the Earth, suddenly the difference between Shia and Sunni probably wouldn't seem that great, or between Protestant or Catholic, or Indian and Pakistani, or North and South Korean. Our differences would be erased very quickly, faced with global catastrophe. I always ask my students in traditional classes to give me some examples of possible extinction events. And here are some of the answers that I usually get. Nuclear war is an obvious one. Probably the most dangerous borders in the world, the border there between Pakistan and India. Both of these countries have nuclear weapons pointed at each other. We know the demilitarized zone there between North and South Korea is very a dangerous place as well. Nuclear accidents, I can think of two in my lifetime. There's the sort of infamous accident in Ukraine in the mid-'80s at Chernobyl, where a Russian nuclear power plant blew up. The little city there, Pripyat, is still uninhabited, and it's been a few generations now. Of course, in the United States, we had the 3 Mile Island accident in the late 70s, I guess. I remember Jimmy Carter was president. Not nearly as dangerous as the Chernobyl accident, but nevertheless, it scared people. We have pandemics. This is a possible source of extinction events. We've already talked about the bubonic plague a bit, the Spanish flu, malaria, the great killer. Ebola makes an appearance occasionally, comes out of the rainforest of Africa, wipes out a few thousand people, and then retreats. Imagine if Ebola got loose in a large city like Tokyo or London or New York. Climate change is always a possibility. Again, there was a little ice age in the 14th century. And then if we go back into prehistory, we find long and sustained ice ages. Sustained volcanic activity. This may be the most deadly. The Permian extinction event, this was more than 200 million years ago, was caused by sustained volcanic activity, whereby the Earth is covered in poisonous gas. The temperatures on Earth drop because the sun's rays cannot reach the planet as we're used to. And this, of course, causes plants to die, which causes the animals who eat the plants to die. Plate tectonic activity usually gets a nod when we talk about extinction events. Again, here we're talking about earthquakes and tsunamis and volcanoes and the movement of the Earth's surface. And then, of course, I guess the ultimate would be asteroid impact on the Earth. Here we think about the Yucatan impact of about 65 million years ago. There's a consensus in the scientific community that this initiated the end of the dinosaurs and opened the door for dominance by mammals. And then, of course, we have what scientists would call planet killers. This would be an asteroid of sufficient size that could destroy the Earth upon impact. And then, of course, we have what scientists nowadays call the Anthropocene. This is sort of a man-made series of extinction events that's occurring even as we speak. This is something that is not really noticeable on our day-to-day lives, but it's kind of happening without us paying much attention to it. What's happened here is that mankind has sort of disturbed the order of the planet, in that we can move plants and animals that have been isolated for centuries. We can move them by ship or by plane to places where they don't belong. And these invasive species can then wipe out the indigenous species. So we see a long list of both plant and animal life that is being destroyed here in the 20th and 21st centuries. And it has a lot to do with globalization and the ability to move things back and forth across the planet, inadvertently, usually. So some conclusions. We have some things in common, obviously. We are part of a very successful species on this planet. We appear to be contributing to extinction events that go on without general notice. This Anthropocene extinction, and anthro refers to man. This Anthropocene extinction, combined with increased temperatures on this planet, will have one of two consequences. Mankind will either address these long-term dangers and take measures to correct them, or we'll go on as we are and ignore them, perhaps until it's too late. So I'm going to end there. Thank you.